Fitchburg State University is changing constantly, so it's hard to remember what it was like years ago. Meet Gerald Higdon. He's one of the oldest members of the faculty here at FSU. He's a mathematics teacher and has been at FSU for a long time. He's won many awards and he continues to teach to this day. Gerald looks forward to what's in store for his career and the future of FSU.
The campus has changed enormously physically, mostly in the buildings, in the interior of the buildings. I think I gave this matter some thought after I talked to you before. This building is obviously the same. Our offices were in Miller Hall for up until the last 8 or 9 years ago. We moved over here. Originally women's dorm, and our offices were there. The conditions were not too good. Miller, Adgerley, Thompson. Physical side outside, I think, is very similar. I mean, that quad out there is very similar. I mean, the trees have changed. There used to be tennis courts in that quad, but that was before my time. Yeah. If they were still there, I would use them. When I first came here, I had a PhD, but three-fourths of the mathematics department didn't have PhDs. Maybe there were only 4 of us out of 12 that had PhDs at that time. I don't recall exactly, but that would never be the case now. We're hiring somebody next year for a position in the department, and we just finished a review of 240 applications for that position, and all 240 of them had PhDs. Nobody that's hired nowadays doesn't have doctorate degrees. Back in the 70s and even on into the 80s, there were a lot of people hired without doctorate degrees. Mm-hmm. So the faculty is much more educated now. Yeah. And that's true throughout academia too. In my early years here, my first 10 or 15 years here, computer science was exploding at that time. It was exploding as a major. And so that was and the business department was getting bigger. Education department was not as big now, it's not as dominant now as it was 40 years ago, but it's still big. Yeah, they are to a certain extent, but for example, our majors have fluctuated up and down. They in the 80s, we had a lot of majors in our department, but that was part of a spin-off to the huge computer science thing. Then our majors kind of went down in the 90s and perhaps till around the early 2000s. And in the early 2000s, in the last 15 years or so, there's been a huge turnover in our department, and we have about 9 people in this department who've been hired since '01. Mm-hmm. And so they're quite a bit younger than I am, and they are majorly responsible for an uptick in our majors. But people still major in mathematics, and they do lots of different things. Yeah. They don't. It's not like a business major or communications major where they go straight into the film industry or straight into an accounting firm or something like that, or management, marketing. Technology continues to be used a lot. For example, we run a lot of hybrid courses now. There's hybrid courses in our department, half online, half physically in a classroom. There's a lot of those which are done, for example, in economics too, and there's a couple of friends of mine who are economics professors who teach hybrid courses. I've never done one of those. Whether you ever reach the point where you have a college which is virtually all done, remotely, I don't know. I mean, the physical interaction between students and faculty is still very important. Yeah. They enjoy it. I mean, I can't imagine teaching my Introduction to Mathematics Thought course online. Mm-hmm. I just can't imagine it. I mean, there's lots of nuances involved in the way I teach it and the way I read their reactions that would be totally lacking in an online course. Yeah. So it's hard to predict. I like the students here. I think they're friendly, they're pleasant, they do their work. Sometimes not all of them. Some of them don't do their work and they have to be, given a, shall we say, a boost. But that was the same way in 1977. I honestly don't feel that the students at this college have changed all that much in the years I've had here. They are not particularly entitled, as students at higher end private institutions sometimes are. By and large, I don't think they've changed much.
Right. Thank you very much, sir.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Pleasure, gentlemen.
Yeah. Do you mind if we just get a